Chapter 20. Monsters, such as this one, are rare. They exist to keep us humble, to remind us that we are not the greatest creatures in the universe. They also exist to remind us of the relationship between predator and prey. Without prey, the predator is nothing. When our people roamed freely, we blessed the spirit of our prey. We knew that without the prey, we would be nothing. We would not have clothing or homes or food. We have lost our connection to our prey. We no longer understand the relationship that has kept us alive for all these centuries. By losing touch with our prey, we have forgotten how to be predators. We have forgotten how to survive. Major Lee adjusted his night goggles. The damn things always made him slightly dizzy, something he didn't care to confess out loud. He figured it was because they reproduced the world in ways that were not natural. The desert didn't look like a night desert. It looked faintly greyish-green, with all the details highlighted. All the details, including the creature's bloody trail. Private Corrales stood beside Lee, holding his M16 at the ready. Corrales didn't seem disturbed by the night goggles. In fact, he was the one who had spotted the change in the creature's direction. It veered to the right. Carefully, silently, Lee and Corrales followed the trail to the top of a ridge. Lee felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. He'd been feeling like something was wrong, something was off. He was feeling as if this part of the plan wasn't going well. He kept telling himself it was because the attack in the town had gone badly. To let a civilian die, well, Lee would be lucky if he didn't have some music to face on that one. And then the damn creature got away. Corrales glanced at Lee as if he was expecting something. Lee was expecting something, and it wasn't coming. He had called to Private Cheney to let him know about the change in the trail's direction, and Cheney had responded that he had found it. Then he had said nothing more. Now Cheney might be taking simple precautions. Even though Lee hadn't commanded silence, they all knew the creature was still out there. Still, Cheney should have reported which direction he was going in. Unless the direction was so damned obvious that no one could miss it. If that were the case, Cheney should have waited. No one in the team should have gone far from the others. Not alone. That was basic tracking. Lee had trained Cheney himself. Lee remembered teaching that. Lee shouted one more time, "Cheney, report!" His order echoed through the night and died off in the warm breeze. "Spread out," Lee said to Corrales. "I want to go over that hill apart, just in case." Corrales nodded and went left about 10 steps, stopping behind a small rock. Major Lee nodded and turned around, shouting back the 30 meters to Mayhew on the opposite ridge. "Move to our right and cover our flank." Mayhew signaled that he had heard. Lee glanced at Corrales. "Ready, Private?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Corrales answered. "Now," Lee said. Together they went over the slight ridge, both moving parallel to the creature's tracks. No more than a few meters in front of them, just beyond the crest, was Cheney's body. His head severed, his gun missing. "Damn it all to hell," Lee said softly as they both stopped and crouched, scanning the desert night for anything moving. Nothing was. Somehow that creature had killed Cheney without a sound, then disappeared into the night again. But how and where was it now? Before Major Lee could even move, his question was answered. To their right, the desert silence was shattered by the rapid fire of an assault rifle. Both Corrales and Lee dove for cover, coming up facing the sound of fire, guns at ready. Mayhew screamed in agony, the cry echoing over the final sounds of gunfire like a haunting note. Then again, the desert was silent. Shit, 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 Lee said to himself. Then he called, Mayhew, report! His words echoed and died. Mayhew, report! Lee shouted louder. Nothing. Shit, Lee said again. Then with a wave to Corrales, he motioned that they move up. More than anything, he wanted to retreat, but until he discovered what had happened to Mayhew, he wasn't going anywhere. Slowly, moving as carefully as they could through the brush and rock, they stalked towards Mayhew's position. No sound, no attacking fire greeted them. Nothing but the darkness and the desert breeze. And to Lee, the silence was worse than gunfire. At least with an attack, he knew what he was facing. At the moment, he had no idea. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, but was less than a minute in real time, they reached Mayhew's body. He had been riddled point blank by an M16. Most of his middle had been blown into dripping blobs of flesh and intestines on the brush behind him. Killed by Cheney's gun. The creature had done that on purpose, toying with them, letting them know that it knew that they were nearby. Corrales gagged, but held his dinner. Lee moved slowly to the top of the ridge, scanning the area. From the looks of it, the creature had headed straight off into the desert, towards the volcanic ridgeline 10 miles away. If it got into those rocks, not even Nakai could track it. If it didn't, it was planning something. Lee gripped his gun tightly and searched the darkness, but saw nothing. For the first time, he understood their disadvantage. The creature, in using the M16, had told him that it understood their weapons. It had weapons of its own, which it used with impunity, but by taking one of their weapons and turning it against their own man, it was sending a message. It knew how they thought, and they knew nothing about it. The idea sent a chill through Lee. He took a deep breath to calm himself, then turned to Corrales. You all right? Corrales nodded, his face a strange greenish colour when viewed through the night goggles. Lee suspected that Corrales was also that green when viewed without the night goggles. Good, he said. Let's head back. We've got to tell the Colonel it's time we stopped playing army and kill this thing. Yeah, Corrales said, before it kills us. Lee clapped Corrales on the back. He didn't agree, at least not verbally. He didn't have to. After one more glance at the desert, the men turned and headed quickly towards the lights of the nearby town.